Well, that's neat because
Perfect.
it's
All right. Would you please introduce yourself?
Name is Bill Porterfield, Oldsmobile engineering retiree.
Thank you. And would you please give like an overview of your time and career at Oldsmobile?
For 32 years. I hired in '67 in the drafting group. And the first chance I got over to the experimental machine shop. And it was during a second shift change at night. And over in the corner, there were some guys huddled around a milling machine, and they were working on some race car parts. And that wetted my whistle, so the first chance I got to get out of drafting, I got over to the lab, did some accessory horsepower work, did some engine development, looking for fuel economy. I ran Oldsmobile's emission certification program. And in 1975, when the catalytic converters were mandated, I think that's right, and the emission standards were really thrown on us, I was building the cert cars and then working them through VEL and EPA. So I got a taste of that, and that just wasn't fun work at all. I ended up as Oldsmobile's future systems and technology engineer. I was the only one in the corporation,
Wow.
which made me feel kind of special. And they started laying people off in the late 90s. And on the third round of offers, we were suspicious that was the last offer they were going to make before they start pink slipping. So a lot of us just left Oldsmobile. They'd moved us down to the Rensen about 6 months earlier. And that was a drag. We went from dynamometers and test trips between here in Vegas and Denver, and now we're stuck in a cubicle down at the Rensen. So a lot of us engineering types bailed out. And so I retired Jan 1 of '99.
Were you driving from here to the Rensen downtown Detroit every day?
Oh, not from here, from the farm.
Oh, that's
up
right.
on Airport Road. Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
How long of a drive is that?
Long.
it was a couple hours.
The plan was to get to the Rensen before traffic really got heavy down there,
Have to leave early.
and try to leave at 3 or 3:30. Hardly ever worked that way.
That's very early.
Yeah, this is interesting for Silas's book, by the way. I'm glad you.
Well, didn't Ed Kerner commute a lot
Yeah.
of years
Yeah,
from Grand Ledge to
yeah,
either Rensen or Tech Center?
yeah.
Wow.
I think one advantage that Ed might have had was a lot of his work he can do on the phone.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
That makes a difference.
absolutely.
So can I ask, you spoke about going through like a couple of different programs or I guess departments. What was like a typical workday in some of these, or was there anything that stood out special? Obviously you started at 3:30 a.m., so that's a...
No, I didn't say that. I said we tried to beat traffic.
Yeah.
Typical workday has to, a person's personal makeup dictates what their typical day is. If they're gonna start early and work late and try to find some fun in between, that's I think a lot of us at Oldsmobile felt that way.
Mhm.
Some of us were lucky to get fun jobs. And as far as myself is concerned, I had a lot of jobs that people thought were fun, but they were just work. When we set the closed course record down at Fort Stockton, Kevin from Ottawa caught me at the motel that night, and he was talking with me, and he said, "This must have really been a fun project." And I said, "No, it wasn't fun until this afternoon."
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a lot of the projects that different engineers had, they did the work, and then if it turned out good, everybody was happy at the end, but not all jobs are that way.
Mhm. See.
A lot of them get canceled halfway through. You're putting your heart and soul involved into a project, and
Oh,
and then management or the budget people or whatever finally say, "We're not going to do that anymore." So you just get told that.
Yeah, we know that it's a darn good project, and it'll really bear fruit.
Be the right thing for the corporation, the right thing for the customer. We're all your heart and soul into this whatever it is, and then they say it's done. It really flattens you. It's demoralizing.
Dang.
But the neat thing is, whatever projects we were working on, it seemed like we were always working with some fun people. You know, there was it was a good group. It was a really good group of people at Olds Engineering. I enjoyed that.
That's great. So you worked at Oldsmobile, I'm pulling from your sheet here, between 67 and 99, is that correct? What changes did you notice during that time, like internal to Oldsmobile? Anything that sticks out specifically?
Management changes
Mm-hmm.
can have a positive or a negative impact on a group of people. I guess the biggest change through 32 years is management change, location of workplace, and assignments.
Mm-hmm. Were there any changes to like the processes that you had to get, for example, approval for a project, or just the way a project developed over the course of, those 32 years?
Oh yeah, there. You'll probably get some stuff from Weglars and Kerner, and what do you chuckle about?
I'm
No,
sure both are just slightly opinionated.
Well, in the 70s and 80s, Oldsmobile, GM, the big three, the car companies had enough money to pretty much do some extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, since weight wasn't such an issue and emissions weren't beating us up,
Yeah.
there was an opportunity to build neater engine powertrains and that kind of thing. And as the emissions clamped down and the weight became a factor, it just put a damper on a lot of stuff that I think some of us could have really had fun doing.
Mm-hmm. That's too bad. Are there any other time periods, or are there any like specific time periods in the 32 years you worked that were especially memorable of your time with Oldsmobile?
In 1975 V8 engine, package. I had swirl port heads, a roller cam, sheet metal exhaust manifolds.
In 75?
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm sure.
Roller cam, that's interesting.
You're dealing with an 83-year-old memory, Silas.
Apologies.
Well, it seems pretty sharp to me.
Does to me as well.
I've got the folder on it in there.
Sounds like a
Bill-
well-stocked memory.
Bill,
Well, I guess a personal highlight for me is Lucas giving me a car to turn into that 442 on the cover of Hot Rod magazine. And
Can you explain the story behind that from, everything you can remember almost?
Well, yeah, that's why I said we should have started this at the very beginning. I built 2 rear or mid-engine cars on my own, and I had a cardboard template made of a Tornado engine transmission package, side view, painted it black, and brought this was in 78, maybe late 77. I brought a Starfire hatchback coupe up to they call it the AA room. That's where experimental stuff would be brought up and management would come in and review it and make comments or whatever.
AA room stood for, if I remember, appearance analysis room.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
That's where Herb and Gerard, those guys hung out.
Yeah.
And that new Cutlass that came out that nobody liked the body shape on it. And I had the car sitting there and it had templates of my Tornado package. And I said, Ted Lucas was the chief engineer then. And I said, Ted, look how cool this Tornado package fits in this hatchback, because you can raise the hatch up on it. And there's your powertrain. Makes it sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, Porterfield, if you want a car out of me, you're going to take one of those ugly coupes. And
What we call the shoebox.
I called it different than that.
Well,
So special group coughed up a car, and that let me build that Oldsmobile. So that was a cool project. It was work. I had a lot of friends helping me on that one. I've typically built my own frames and everything for hot rods, but the Olds was already done. We drove it out to a secret facility, and that's where I did the conversion on it, but I got a lot of help on it. But
And you said it took how many days exactly?
88.
88. That's that's incredible.
Yeah. And I guess throughout the 2 Aerotech programs, there was a lot of stuff that happened that was either bad or okay or good. It made you feel happy because you really learned or proved something. There are a lot of those, but the way to encapsulate it is in 87 when the cars ran their numbers and set the records. That was pretty cool. And then in 92, we basically, in Fort Stockton, Texas, we got snowed out.
Wow.
We started with 3 cars. We lost one to a deer.
Dell was driving, right? Jeez.
He came back we had a coffee shop set up in a tent. He came in and I said, Dell, are you still going to be able to handle your next driving shift?
These were the endurance cars.
He says, you know how he talked? Slow. He
Yeah.
said, no. He says, I think I better go back home. Just,
He was going, what, 180 when he hit a deer or so?
I don't know how fast he was going.
I mean, the record was, I mean, the whatever, you set a whole bunch of records, but all the speeds are well up on the, not 200, but close up around 200, aren't they? And so you were cruising the cars at elevated speed.
Yeah. Around the clock. That's,
Yeah.
we ran for, I think, 7 days, 7 or 8.
So how did you get involved exactly with the Aerotech project? Like, what was your introduction, I guess, to the project?
Well, like probably explains it right here. The project was really initiated by Lucas and Welborn because Ted liked one of Ed's sketches that he saw. And Ted got noodling. We got to get something going to introduce this quad 4 engine. And at that time, Foyt was racing an Oldsmobile NASCAR car. And Foyt also had either one dealership or a few dealerships, I'm not sure which. And Ted had a good friendly relationship with Foyt. And Foyt was familiar with March because of the Indy car racing that Foyt was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole Lucas, Welborn, Foyt, and then Foyt to March is what kind of tied in, those personal relationships kind of tied in how the program started.
But the interest was to promote the new quad 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
yeah.
So by the time you joined, was the program pretty much, did it have like set goals, or were you kind of introduced and said like, let's figure something out about specifically what we want to hit with the project?
No, they had some goals set, or they wouldn't be able to explain asking for the money.
Yeah.
The goals were already.
Pardon me, boss is calling.
It's for
Mr.
you,
Turner.
Ted. Your
So-
boss is sitting right there.
What are some perspective details that didn't actually make the final cars in the end?
Details that didn't make the final cars.
Yeah, so I know, for example, you showed me a photo of like the vertical fins on the tail. Was there anything about the design or even the engineering that went into it that was considered but didn't actually get
Well,
used in the end?
like I said, we used just about 850 in either car when they ran the numbers. But it was a little frustrating because we knew that there was a lot more there.
Mm.
Foyt even wanted, something. This is where. Yeah. Foyt wanted to go faster. He knew that the cars could be a lot faster. I'll leave it at that. And the other thing is, once we got back and they really ran the engines up and saw that we could get close to 12 instead of 850, that really got people excited. But Olds was happy meeting their initial 87 goals of breaking the records. and they let it stand.
Yeah.
Could have been a lot cooler than that.
So can you explain Aerotech 2 and how like that, the project continued a little bit?
What do you think? What's Aerotech 2?
Or the V8. I've seen it referred to like the 2
well,
version. Apologies.
Well, there's an Aerotech 2 concept drawing that never got off the ground. So don't use the term Aerotech 2.
Okay.
We got the 87 program and the 92 program.
Mm-hmm.
The 92 was to promote the 4-liter V8.
And so did it have like goals similar to the promotion for the Quad 4?
Exactly. Exactly. We knew we weren't going to be running the horsepower numbers that the little Quad 4 did.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked for other ways to show how good the engine was. And I don't know who, I know who came up with the idea to do the long distance stuff. Cyril Batten.
Oh,
He built the engines for the short tail. And Cyril had done a lot of Oldsmobile business, racer kind of business. And he was a real thinker. And Sid is the one that came up with, let's just do some long distance stuff. Don't need killer horsepower. Just show them some durability.
sure.
And to be honest with you, there's more promotional spin that you can throw at the 92 program than the 87. I mean, the displacement on those engines was 1.96 liters. It was below 2 liters.
A little less than 2.
And who's going to believe that you can do anything with that?
Yeah.
Except I created a motorsports chart that's just dazzling. It shows where all we could run that engine. God. There's a lot of missed opportunity.
Well, it seemed that the rollout of that of the records, the advertising potential was never really met.
I don't think so.
I mean, okay, there were some posters and things, but I think there's a lot of people out there that really had no clue what that engine did.
You're right. It's been
So-
frustrating. That's why I started something, but I started it almost 5 years ago, and it's not finished yet.
I'm presuming much of what I see here is that project.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm glad
Yeah.
you.
Most of those folders in that whole room out there with that's where I started with 15 document boxes.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So can you speak a little bit more? You're writing a book, is that correct, on the projects?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Is there any sort of timeline of when you think you might be done and when people might be able to read that?
3 years ago.
Lots happened in your life, obviously.
And sometime in 25.
Mm-hmm. So about, I guess, the Aerotech projects across both of the ones you mentioned, the 87 and the 92, you mentioned they were pretty much promotional for the engines that Oldsmobile was using.
Yeah.
Was there any other value that you saw or that was used by Oldsmobile, on these cars that were doing these incredible things, breaking records, beyond just promotion of an engine?
Well, I would assume that production picked up a few things from the aero work done on the body. I mean, there's an extensive amount of downforce and drag changes with numbers to support them, that little bits and pieces could be applied to production, but Oldsmobile never decided to build a street version of the car, so.
Yeah.
Well, there's correlation work that was done, I think, to correlate the real world to the wind tunnel off that first. I think it was a short tail car, wasn't it? The
Yeah.
one that Darren Draskovic ended up with out in Mesa, or at least the body. I don't know. I think all that's in Los Angeles area now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, in researching the Aerotech and I guess GM experimental vehicles around the time in general, I came across a couple of others, but from other GM subsidiaries. And so I wanted to ask, why was the Aerotech like specific to Oldsmobile? Was there any reflection?
Because we thought of it and invented it and built it.
So was there any reflection of like the goals of the Aerotech in terms of the goals or marketing of Oldsmobile as a company as well, or was it just because you had the idea that you got to run it?
I don't understand the question.
Yeah, let me rephrase this. So the Aerotech was instrumental in obviously promoting the engines and looking at, just how far these engines could go, but also, for example, aerodynamics and such. Were these two goals that Oldsmobile went into the project, seeking to improve with? Or was it something that GM in general wanted to do and you just did it in Oldsmobile?
No, the corporate version, GM, the best. Some folks in the corporate lineup weren't really happy with the ideas and the amount of money we were going to spend. And yes, you asked me a question about some Buick concept thing, if I knew about that.
Yeah, that was something I came across.
I had no clue on what the other divisions were doing. I mean, we were doing our own thing.
Mm. And do you think the Aerotech is something that would still be valuable today if an automotive company tried to do something similar in terms of either promotion or just engineering feats to see what could be possible in today's cars?
Well, you keep getting Aerotech and today's cars in the same sentence, and
No correlation.
No, not much. I already explained that the production guys should have been able to at least pay attention to what Schenkel was developing and find some way to work it underneath on the floor pan. Or I see cars now are coming up with little bolt-on kits that make it look like you got tunnels coming up under the rear bumper. Have you seen those?
Diffusers.
Yeah. The Oldsmobile created the '87 program to promote the Quad 4 engine and to demonstrate Oldsmobile's engineering capability. And the same thing applied to the 92. It was a different engine, but we still had that fast, beautiful Aerotech body with all of the engineering that went into that to brag about. So I've been saying all along, yeah, it was for the engines, but it was for the engines and for the engines and the engineering capability that we were bragging about.
Now, another project of yours that I wanted to ask about was the Kelmark. Could you talk some more about how, I guess, that came about in terms of creating it, or the idea, or the people involved as well?
Yeah, 1975. Kelmar bodies were being built not far from here. They were designed to go on a shortened VW chassis. And it was one of the major kit builders. They called them kit cars.
Mm.
And this Kelmark was one of the major players back then. And the guy that owned the Kelmark business was running a gas station out on the freeway. And I pulled in with that little Corvair I showed you downstairs.
Yep.
And the kid was putting some gas. I had the gas tank up in the front of the Corvair. And he started to gas it, and I says, no, I'll take care of putting the gas in. So he ran in and told his boss to come out and look at this car. And when this guy saw the powertrain in the back of that Corvair, he said, man, it'd be cool if you could stuff that thing in one of our bodies. I said, well, give me a body and part of whatever the short chassis is that you were building. They put it on a snowmobile trailer and I hauled it home, and over the weekend I put a dummy Toro package underneath the Kelmark body, and that's what started the business there. They gave me a small chunk of the business, which never really paid off.
Darn.
Does it work? Then I ended up splitting off, and we formed Mid-Engineering, and that was my own company.
Mm.
And that's when I was able to just do my own thing and build the other cars.
Can you talk some more about the other cars as well, please?
Did Mid-Engineering build the other cars you showed us downstairs?
No. Well, yeah, Mid-Engineering, right here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how the 78 came about?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only car I could get to work with from Oldsmobile. And one of the most creative cars that I built was that Mid-T Roadster. And my wife and I we took it to India for the 75th anniversary. We were in the parade lab, and just as we were getting ready to pull out on the track, the guy was telling me to pull out, you're leaking gas. He said, pull out a line. I said, nope. It was just a little drippy drip, but we cruised down the track. That was one of the highlights of my Mid-Engineering life, I guess. I'm rattling on here because I'm not used to trying to explain my cars.
No, this is perfect. I guess I only have a few more questions here anyways. I just wanted to ask, is there anything I haven't asked about? Anything you're like super proud of having worked on or been a part of that comes to mind?
The Aerotech records.
Yeah.
Mm.
The 75 V8 engine calibration.
Anything else? It can be either personal or professional. Anything that you've just worked on that, something you hold in high esteem that you're really proud of.
Ted, could you answer that question for yourself?
No.
How would you explain that?
Well, it'd be easy for me because I haven't done anything. So, no, you got the Aerotech. You got a lot of stars lined up under your name. There's a lot of cool stuff you've done, and what you're most proud of, I don't know.
to be honest with you, as far as Oldsmobile's concerned, I've got the Aerotech stuff that's got my name stuck on it.
Sure.
I
A lot of those records still stand, right?
as far as I know, yeah. My real kick was just building all my own stuff.
Got a lot of cool stuff.
Getting a cover on Hot Rod magazine was a very, very large deal back then. And Scott Violetta was doing my packaging for me out at the farm.
Oh.
Pam was running the tech line. I had enough questions and answers in the flip folder so she could answer almost all the questions the guys would think to come up with. It's quite an operation.
Sure.
And that was in tandem with Oldsmobile, so I was busy. I know this guy's busy.
Cool stuff. Neat memories.
I wrote a couple technical articles on the Aerotech engines that appeared in an international did so many things that it's hard to pick anything out. Aerotech.
No, I understand. And I guess just the last question here. I wanted to ask if you have anything that would be impossible to find in all these papers or any documents, anything like unreported or so niche about the Aerotech that only you would know. I know, for example, I can lead off with, we were talking yesterday about how you knew that the short tail that was down in Arizona was the actual one. Like there was a specific identifier for that, which wouldn't have been found in any
You're going
papers.
to current day stuff now, right?
Well, yeah. You had suggested that when I went out and looked at it, that you look for the pressure ports down through the tunnel. Which then we got to talking about what makes a race car a race car. Is it the body, or is it the chassis, or is it the powertrain, or whatever? It isn't like an actual car. Race car is just a bunch of parts put together to go fast. So I think we had the discussion at the time: is the car that Darren had out there a real car that may have set the record, or is that just a part of it?
That was a real car.
Yeah. But that car,
I told Adcock that.
Yeah.
And the number that guy was asking, I told Bill, I said, get it.
Yeah. Yes. But you're dealing with a board of directors down there, and the real concern was all the parts and pieces and body molds.
What else do you with the molds and all that?
A lot of pieces. And
a mold takes up the space of a car.
Yes. Yes. And there was just a lot of stuff. Obviously, Cyril over the years had collected a lot of pieces. And
well, when those two programs were over, nobody at Oldsmobile was interested in. I mean, they were happy with the numbers, and the guys that were involved in that program went back to their regular responsibilities. So the divisions were happy because they got something to brag about, and they got their own workers back doing their real jobs instead of this hot dog stuff.
Right.
And nobody worried about the leftover stuff, so I just told Cyril, whatever you got stashed up. See, the 87 program, it was almost like we were building a car. I kind of correlated it to like sending a satellite to the moon. Never been done before. And what we're going to try to do.
Sure.
with a little tiny engine like that. Now, this is not a good story. We ended up making a lot of spare parts just in case. I mean, it took some doing to find the right place that could build the canopies. We got an outfit that was building canopies for jet fighters, and Cyril ordered 6 of them. And cha-ching 6 times, but
But you don't know.
we were coming up with whatever the money and the time it took to get the job done.
Yep.
And I did the same thing with the fueling stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Jim just kept it. He actually set quite a few records at Bonneville with Aerotech engines and other cars.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some of his stuff came out in Engineering News.
Oh, okay.
You'll see this all someday if I.
We look forward to your book.
Yes.
I'd
Very
like
much.
a signed copy.
God, I had one more comment I was going to offer up about Aerotech stuff that nobody really knows about or knew about. Yeah, it's book material. Sorry.
Well, no, that's fine. Thank you so much for meeting with me and being willing to have this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Cyril's gone. Is Jim Fueling no longer
Yeah,
around
Jim
also?
passed away, I don't know, 5-6 years ago.